Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of HealthZone with Gilbert Cheah. I'm Gilbert Cheah, and we're thrilled that you could join us again this week. Last week we talked about the 5 most important health tips to start your health and wellness journey on. And this week we're going to give you another 5 important tips, and these are the next 5 most important things. I didn't want to rank them, so I'm just going to give them to you one by one, and because they apply differently to different people, alright? But all of these things are very important for all of us to be aware of. The first is nutrition. Now, this is something we cannot ignore or overlook. It is so basic and so fundamental and yet so important. We are what we eat and drink. Our diets play a huge role in everything from our mental health to our emotional well-being and obviously to our physical condition. Almost every medical condition is either affected by diet or can be improved or made worse by it. From high blood pressure and diabetes to heart disease, strokes and cancer, the diseases that kill the most people in Singapore are all related to our diets. And conditions such as type 2 diabetes that are directly attributed to diets can also be reversed by a change in diet. And we are so often used to just eating what we've been eating our whole lives that we seldom question it. Hey, after all, it was fed to us as kids by our parents and grandparents, and they ate the same food. How bad can it be, right? Why can't we continue to eat that same way? Well, for one thing, we lead far more sedentary lives than our ancestors did. And we also consume a lot more of these foods. Our portions are bigger, we eat a lot of more sugar and fat, and we move a lot less. And all of this contributes to a host of health problems. For example, Singapore has the second highest rate of diabetes in the developed world. Yet we also have a diet that is extremely high in starchy carbohydrates such as rice and noodles, which contributes to diabetes. So we all need to be aware of our nutrition. This is obviously a huge topic, and we will be covering all the different aspects of this in future episodes. But I wanted to start off with that because a lot of times we take for granted what we eat, we don't think about it, we don't think about the kind of snacks that we put into our mouths, and then we wonder why we gain weight, we can't lose weight, and why we have health problems. So nutrition is the first thing I want to leave you guys with that's really important, and we'll be exploring this in greater detail in future episodes. Now, point number 2. The next one is going to be surprising for many people because it's something we seldom think is related to health, and that is our friends and our relationships. Studies have shown that married people tend to outlive their single friends. This is really interesting and unexpected, but if you think about the connection between friendships, relationships and health, it actually makes perfect sense. Now, there are 2 main ways that our friends and relationships affect our health. The first is that having people whom we can talk to and who care for us and empathize with us is very important in helping us cope with stress. And we know that stress has a very damaging effect on our overall health. Everything from our blood pressure and digestive systems to our immune systems are all negatively affected by stress. Being married or attached also means you have someone looking out for you and reinforcing healthy behaviors, making sure you go to the doctor, getting checkups, encouraging you to eat well, and being there in case you have any medical emergencies while you're at home. People who lack good social relationships are more likely to have higher levels of stress, depression, and inflammation, all of which negatively impacts every system in our body, including the brain. A Swedish study found that the risk for dementia was lowest in those with satisfying relationships. Another study that focused on women showed that those with strong friendships and marriages had a lower risk for cardiovascular disease than those without friends and close friends. Researchers found that people who were solitary and did not have friends or relationships were 3 times more likely to die than those with strong relationships. In fact, relationships are so important to our health that some studies found that people with close social ties but with unhealthy lifestyles, for example, they smoked and did not exercise, tended to live longer than those with poor social connections but healthier living habits. Now, the people who lived the longest were the people who had both healthy lifestyles and close social connections and close social ties. So having people who care for us and who empathize with us is a very important and effective way of relieving stress, which then lowers the damage to our bodies. What's interesting is that research shows that older adults who might be solitary and not have many friends or relationships, but who volunteer to help others, also tended to have lower levels of inflammation, which can cause chronic illness, frailty, and health. And what this showed is that even though they did not have close friends perhaps, the fact that they got out of their house and they volunteered and communed with other people had a good effect on their health. So researchers believe that volunteering is a meaningful task which helps us cultivate relationships with others who share some of the same values as we do, and this has a beneficial effect on the body and the mind. The second way that having friends can affect our health is how we tend to follow the same lifestyle as our friends. If our friends are the type who love eating junk food, smoke, drink, and sleep late, it's very likely that we will be doing all of these things as well. People who spend time with smokers, for example, are far more likely to take up smoking. But here's what's interesting. If your friends started to quit smoking, you are also much more likely to try quitting. Similarly, people are more likely to gain weight and remain overweight if their circle of friends are overweight or obese. Conversely, if our friends are people who are health conscious and lead healthy lifestyles, we too get influenced by them to become healthier. So staying healthy is not something we can do alone, and having friends who share the same goals can make a huge difference. Who we spend time with is directly related to the kind of lifestyle that we lead. As surprising as it sounds, the kind of friends we have can affect our health and longevity. Whether you have a big group of friends or just a few doesn't matter. What matters is that you have some people you can talk to, depend on, confide in, and who care about your well-being. And if they are also leading healthy lifestyles, even better. So that's the surprising thing, is that your friends and relationships can have a huge impact on your health and your longevity. Now, of all the factors that scientists have found help people live longer, this is the one that surprised me the most, and I'm sure it will surprise many people as well. And this factor is faith and religiousness. Several studies have shown that people who attend religious services and those who have a faith live longer than those who don't. One study published in 2018 found that regular service attendance was linked to reductions in the body's stress responses and even in mortality. So much so that worshippers and people who went to services were 55% less likely to die in the 18 years that they studied and followed up on this study. Two other studies conducted at Ohio State University showed that religion could give believers a 4-year extension of life. Now, what does this mean, and why would a person who is religious or who attends religious service live longer? It didn't matter which religion it was. Whether it was people who were going to temples or churches or mosques or whatever their faith was, it did not matter. The main thing was that they had a faith of some sort and that they attended some kind of religious service. Now, there are several reasons for this. One major factor is that people who go to religious services will first of all have a way to relieve their stress through prayers or by communing with a greater being. And many studies show that prayer, regardless of religion, is a great stress reliever. They found that the mind enters a state during prayer that is similar to meditation. When you're not focused on yourself, you then actually find a lot of relief from stress while you're praying. It's the same thing as meditation. Also, people who attend religious services will have a network of other people that they develop friendships with and who share common beliefs with them. This ties in with what we said earlier about the health benefits of having friends. Moreover, many religions promote stress-reducing practices that may improve health, such as having a sense of gratitude, prayer, or meditation. Now, this is significant because another finding is that there was not much difference in the health and longevity of people who attended religious services regularly or those who went to religious services sporadically, which suggests it's not just about going to services that makes a difference, but to have the sense of purpose and belief in something greater than ourselves that is more important. Now, Next to, this is connected to the next one, which is number 4, which is ditch the negativity. The connection between our thoughts and emotions and our bodies has been proven countless times through thousands of studies spanning decades. But we are still discovering new ways that our mental and emotional health affects our physical well-being. And one of the most powerful emotions that can affect our bodies is anger and negativity. The American author Mark Twain said that anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel into which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. And science has found that this is very true in many ways. The bottom line is that anger, hostility, and chronic negativity are toxic emotions that severely affect our well-being in many different ways. Here are some of the interesting findings about anger from research studies. One study from Emory University found that bitter people had higher blood pressure and were more likely to die from heart disease than more forgiving people. A large global study of more than 12,000 first-time heart attack patients found that being angry or emotionally upset more than doubled the risk of suffering a heart attack. And get this, if you're doing heavy physical activity, whether you're exercising or lifting something heavy or doing something strenuous, if you do so when you're in a highly emotional state and being angry while you're doing this, triple the risk of you getting a heart attack than someone who is doing the same strenuous activity but not in an emotional state. Researchers from Iowa State University found that angry men aged between 20 and 40 were 1.5 times more likely to be dead 35 years earlier than those who were calm. That's how much of a difference in your lifespan being angry can take. Harvard University scientists found that even in healthy people, simply remembering an angry experience from the past caused their bodies to have a drop in an antibody called immunoglobulin A, which protects the cells for infection. And this drop lasted for 6 hours. So these were healthy people, but just by remembering and getting angry over something that used to happen to them, it caused their body to react by lowering their immunity. On top of that, prolonged feelings of resentment can also negatively impact metabolism, immune response, and organ function. Those feelings also put you at a high risk of developing depression and anxiety. One recent study conducted by University College London has found a link between repeated negative thinking and dementia among seniors. A 2-year study of people aged 55 and older used PET scans, this is a positron emission tomography scan of the brain, to measure deposits of something called the tau and beta amyloids. These are 2 proteins which cause Alzheimer's disease. And the scan showed that people who spend more time thinking negatively had more of these destructive tau and beta amyloid protein buildups. They had worse memory and greater cognitive decline over a 4-year period compared to people who were not pessimists. This could be due to something called a C-reactive protein, which has been linked to heart disease and strokes. Whenever the body experiences negative feelings, which can be brought on, for example, when you fight with somebody, or you read something that makes you angry, or you remember something which makes you upset, our bodies are brought on to a condition called fight or flight. And staying in that fight state for an extended period of time can increase the amount of this C-reactive protein in our bloodstreams, which then increases the likelihood of heart disease. So letting go of grudges has surprising physical health benefits. Chronic anger is linked to heart disease, stroke, poorer lung health, digestive problems, and many other health conditions. Forgiveness, on the other hand, will reduce anxiety, lower blood pressure, and help you breathe more easily. The rewards actually go up as you get older. The latest finding reinforces the many other studies that show the powerful effect that our thoughts and emotions have on our bodies and the destructive impact of negative thinking, stress, and toxic emotions. This is another powerful example of the importance of having positive mindset and not to harbor toxic emotions such as anger or bitterness, because your negative emotions could really be killing you and shortening your life. And the fifth and final tip for this week, is something that may seem very obvious to a lot of people, but it's also so important, and so we need to talk about this. And this is losing weight if you are overweight. To be healthier, you need to lose weight if you're overweight. And even if you're not overweight, losing body fat, especially stomach fat and belly fat, is so important. Being overweight is not just an aesthetic issue, but very much a health one. Many life-threatening afflictions such as diabetes, heart disease, strokes, high blood pressure, kidney disease, and many types of cancers are directly associated with obesity and high body fat. Now, fat cells that we carry on our body are not just innocent little things that occupy space on our bodies as we may think. Fat cells are actually very active cells. They produce hormones and growth factors, and these hormones and growth factors can cause inflammation. The inflammation that they cause can cause cancer cells to be produced and to grow. In fact, obesity is linked to 13 different types of cancers, and 40% of cancers are linked to being overweight. A lot of times we don't even think about this. We don't think about the connection between being overweight and cancer. But there's a very direct link, which is very scary actually. So one of the most important things you can do to decrease your cancer risk is to maintain a healthy weight. Now, Singapore has the second highest percentage of overweight people in ASEAN, with 32.8% of us being overweight, according to the World Health Organization. And get this, the average Singaporean today is 3 kgs heavier than the average Singaporean just 10 years ago. Excess body weight also has a very detrimental effect on bones and joints, which can lead to degenerative diseases. A new study shows that for every kilo of body weight that you lose, you reduce 4 kilos of pressure on your knees. Especially for those with osteoarthritis of the knee. So researchers say the results indicate that even a modest weight loss may significantly lighten the load on your joints. And problems with obesity and being overweight affect children as well. 70% of children who are overweight at the age of 7 remain overweight as adults and never lose the weight. Now obviously this is a very big subject about being overweight, about losing body fat, about losing weight. And we will go into this much more in future episodes of HealthZone. So there you have it. You've got the 5 remaining most important things in addition to the ones we talked about last week, which you need to be aware of, which you need to focus on, and that you need to focus on changing and increasing in your life if you want to be healthy. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure to catch us next week when we go into another topic about health and wellness. Thank you very much, and stay well and stay healthy.